Most vacuum brands spent decades fighting on the wrong things. They argued about price, bag size, and who had the louder ad, while the real flaw sat inside the machine the whole time. Suction dropped as the bag filled up. Customers kept buying a product that got worse while they used it, and most of the market treated that as normal. James Dyson looked at that and saw something different. He saw an old category that looked settled on the surface, but still forced people to accept bad performance as part of the deal. His answer sounded wrong at the time. Remove the bag, charge more, and ask people to rethink a product they barely thought about at all. That idea led to 5,127 prototypes, years of rejection, and huge personal risk. But the long run of failure wasn't wasted effort. It was the method. And once you see how that method worked, you start to understand why mature markets often break wide open from the inside. Why the 100-year-old vacuum market was easy to underestimate. The vacuum market looked hard to disrupt because it looked finished. The product had been around for roughly a century. Big brands already owned store shelves, and most buyers saw a vacuum as a plain household tool, not something worth rethinking from scratch. When a market feels that mature, people assume the remaining problems must be minor. That was the first mistake. The deeper issue sat in the business model. Vacuum companies did not only sell the machine once, they also earned money from replacement bags, which meant the bag was not a side detail. It was part of the economics. So weak suction was not just a product flaw waiting for a fix. Fixing it threatened a piece of the system that already worked for manufacturers. Customers felt the pain, but usually blamed the wrong thing. They blamed thick carpet, pet hair, dust, or normal wear. They did not stop and ask why a machine designed to clean would predictably clean worse after a short stretch of use. That kind of pain is easy to miss because the market trains people to live with it. Dyson did not start with one giant flash of insight and then build the perfect answer. He started with a problem, then kept testing through airflow issues, dust separation, noise, cost, and basic usability. Each prototype exposed one more weak point, and each weak point forced another change. That is what iterative innovation looks like in real terms. You do not protect your first idea. You pressure test it until the wrong parts break. And that number, 5,127, matters because it turns failure into evidence. Every failed build removed one more false answer. Most founders stop too early, usually because they fall in love with one version and try to market around its weaknesses. Dyson kept treating each version like an experiment. That takes discipline, and it takes money. He reportedly backed the work with his savings and even mortgaged his house, while experts dismissed the idea as too expensive and too strange for mainstream buyers. Once the product finally worked, a bigger problem showed up. A better vacuum still had to survive an industry that had no reason to welcome it. How Dyson turned 5,127 failures into a premium brand strategy. The next fight was not engineering. It was market entry. A bagless vacuum did not fit the incentives of the companies already running the category, because established makers and retailers understood how to sell familiar machines, move volume, and keep replacement bags flowing. Dyson was not offering a small upgrade. He was proposing a product that challenged the logic behind the shelf. That is why rejection followed even after the core idea worked. The response was predictable: too different, too expensive, customers will not care. You hear that anytime a new product asks incumbents to weaken their own margins. It is easier for a large company to dismiss a new answer than to admit the old answer was built around a compromise people never liked. So Dyson took a different route. Instead of framing the vacuum as a cheaper or simpler option, he framed it as better engineering. That sounds obvious now, but it was a sharp move. In a market full of household appliances that blurred together, engineering gave him a reason to charge more and a reason for customers to pay attention. Price did not sit outside the strategy. Price was part of the signal. If the product solved a real visible pain and looked technically different, a higher price could support the claim instead of hurting it. In plain terms, the product was not expensive because Dyson misread the market. It was expensive because he wanted the market to read the product differently. And he gave customers proof they could see. Most appliances hide the mechanism, so the buyer has to trust a list of features on a box. Dyson made the mechanism part of the pitch. The transparent bin showed dust collecting in real time. The industrial design looked unlike the soft domestic language of older vacuums. The machine did not ask you to imagine better performance. It showed the result while you used it. That matters more than it seems. If you sell technical improvement in a category people usually ignore, you cannot rely on a lecture. You need visible evidence. Dyson turned hidden airflow and separation into something people could grasp in seconds, and that move carried the marketing load because the product itself explained the claim. Now, most founders think iteration stops once the prototype works. It does not. Commercial success needs another round of iteration around price, design, message, and route to market, because a strong product can still fail if the market cannot read the difference fast enough. Dyson kept refining the offer until the product and the story matched. You can break the strategy into a clean sequence. First, solve a pain customers already accept as normal. Next, keep testing until the solution works in a way people can notice without effort. Then refuse the pressure to water it down so it fits old category rules. After that, build the message around the pain removed, not around generic claims about quality. This is where mature markets get interesting. They look crowded, but they often carry tolerated pain points because the leaders earn money from the friction. A company can hold share for years while still forcing customers to live with a bad trade-off. That is the opening Dyson found. He did not enter an empty market. He entered a full market built around a weak assumption. And once the product reached customers, the premium position created another layer of defense. Competitors could copy surface features later, but copying the full move was harder because it meant changing more than design. They had to rethink replacement bag economics, product language, margins, and what they wanted customers to expect from a vacuum in the first place. Large firms usually struggle when the answer threatens several parts of the business at once. If you work in product, marketing, or operations, the lesson is practical. Look for the pain your market treats as normal. Test one variable at a time until the answer gets obvious. Price for the outcome, not for what the category trained buyers to expect. Then make the proof visible, because if customers cannot see the difference quickly, the market will drag your product back into the old comparison set. There is one warning here. Iteration is not endless tinkering. You need a sharp problem statement and a clear decision rule, or you end up polishing versions forever without moving closer to a real answer. Dyson's process worked because each prototype answered a hard question. The loop had direction. So the shift is simple. Dyson did not win by avoiding failure. He won by turning repeated failure into a filter that exposed what the market actually needed, then building a business model that let the product stay true to that answer. Take one product, service, or process in your business and ask a harder question than the market usually asks. What pain do customers keep accepting because everyone in the category treats it as normal? Once you name that pain, list the variables blocking a better result and test them one by one. Keep the loop tight. Problem, test, evidence, change, repeat. If you skip that discipline, you keep polishing familiar offers in crowded markets, while the real opening sits inside a flaw everyone else learned to live with. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and watch the next video.